Whispers in the leather, a diary's haunting legacy. The scent of forgotten memories clung to the dusty leather-bound diaries like a shroud. I, Amelia, a seasoned collector of forgotten stories, stumbled upon them at an abandoned estate sale. Nestled amidst chipped porcelain dolls and tarnished silver frames, they exuded an unsettling aura. As I paid the dusty caretaker, a shiver danced down my spine, a premonition of the chilling narrative I was about to unearth. The first diary, adorned with faded initials A, crackled open with a brittle sigh, its yellowed pages revealing elegant handwriting. It belonged to Eleanor, a young woman who inherited Blackwood Manor, a Gothic behemoth shrouded in mist and whispers. Her entries were laced with a growing disquiet, a sense of unseen eyes watching her every move. Whispers in the dead of night, shadows shifting in the flickering candlelight. Eleanor's words resonated with a palpable dread that seeped into my bones. The next diary, weathered and worn, belonged to a man named Charles, the groundskeeper at Blackwood Manor during Eleanor's stay. His entries spoke of unsettling occurrences, doors creaking open on their own, objects mysteriously misplaced. One chilling entry described a hidden room he stumbled upon, sealed shut for decades, the air within thick with an unnatural chill. A shiver ran down my spine as I read his account of a strange symbol etched on the sealed door, a twisted spiral that seemed to writhe on the page. Sleep became a battlefield. The unsettling stories became a constant hum in my mind, blurring the line between reality and the chilling narratives. Shadows in my own apartment seemed to dance with an unnatural life of their own, and the silence of the night was filled with a suffocating presence. Was it my imagination, fueled by the unsettling stories? Or was something more sinister at play? Driven by a morbid fascination, I devoured the diaries, each one revealing a chilling piece of Blackwood Manor's dark tapestry. One journal belonged to a doctor, plagued by nightmares of tortured screams and grotesque figures after treating a resident who spoke of shadows writhing in the walls. Another diary, penned by a young girl named Mary, described chilling games played by unseen entities. Dolls moved from their places, whispered conversations in the empty attic. With each diary, the symbol of the twisted spiral became more prominent, scrawled in the margins or meticulously drawn beside entries of terror. The unease solidified into a full-blown terror one night. I dreamt of myself wandering the halls of Blackwood Manor, the air thick with the scent of decay. Whispers echoed from every corner, calling my name in a chorus of tormented voices. I woke up in a cold sweat, the chilling whispers still resonating in my ears. The room felt oppressively silent, the darkness thick and menacing. The final diary, its cover stained with what looked suspiciously like dried blood, contained the most horrifying truth. It belonged to Sarah, a young woman who lived at Blackwood Manor centuries ago. Her frantic entries spoke of a dark ritual performed by the family, a pact with an ancient entity that craved fear and despair. The entity, trapped within the walls of the house, yearned for release and fed off the negativity that permeated the lives of its residents. Panic set in as I recalled Charles's description of the hidden room. Sarah's diary mentioned it too, as a place where the entity was bound. Suddenly, a scratching sound emanated from the floorboards above my shop. With a morbid curiosity and a desperate hope to escape the terror that had ensnared me, I grabbed a crowbar and began tearing up the floorboards. Sweat beaded on my forehead as dust swirled in the air. After what felt like an eternity, I revealed a dark, gaping hole. A rickety staircase spiraled downwards, disappearing into the inky blackness. Armed with a flashlight, I descended, the air growing colder with each step. Down at the bottom, a single oil lamp cast an eerie glow on a dusty chamber. And there, on a stone altar, lay a book filled with the same swirling symbols from the diaries. As I approached the altar, a heavy silence descended, thicker than the dust that coated the chamber. Then, a sound like 1,000 tortured souls screaming my name echoed through the cavernous space. Shadows writhed on the walls, morphing into a grotesque figure with empty sockets where eyes should have been. Terror froze me in place as the figure pulsed with a malevolent energy, its shapeless form reaching towards me. My scream died in my throat as the diaries, lying scattered on a nearby table, began to glow with an unnatural light. The symbols on their pages pulsed in sync, resonating with the whispers in the room. Suddenly, a wave of cold darkness washed over me. My vision blurred. The screams subsided. When I came to, I was lying on the cold floor back in my shop, sunlight streaming through the window. The hole in the floorboards was gone, replaced by smooth, unbroken wood. The diaries lay on my desk, their once yellowed pages pristine and blank. Cold dread filled me. Had it all been a terrifying nightmare fueled by the disturbing details in the diaries? Or was the horror so overwhelming that my mind had suppressed it, erasing all evidence of my descent into the darkness? The silence in the shop seemed pregnant with possibility. Each creak of the floorboards, each rustle in the wind outside, sent a jolt of fear through me. The blank pages on the desk mocked me, offering no answers, no comfort. The chilling narratives, however, remained etched in my memory, vivid and terrifying. Desperate for answers, I delved into research on Blackwood Manor. Days blurred into nights as I pored over dusty historical records and faded photographs. Finally, a breakthrough. A newspaper clipping from the early 1900s detailed a fire that had engulfed the manor, leaving it in ruins. The article mentioned the tragic death of the last resident, a young woman named Sarah, who perished in the blaze. My heart hammered against my ribs. Was Sarah the same Sarah from the final diary? Could the fire have been a desperate attempt to destroy the entity trapped within the house? Or was it the entity itself, lashing out in a final act of defiance before its prison burned? The mystery gnawed at me. Driven by a morbid compulsion, I decided to visit the ruins of Blackwood Manor. The journey was long and arduous, the abandoned house standing like a skeletal monument against a dreary sky. The air hung heavy with a sense of desolation, the silence broken only by the mournful cry of crows circling overhead. As I approached the crumbling structure, a wave of nausea washed over me. The charred remains of the house seemed to radiate an oppressive energy. Thick vines snaked through the broken windows, and gnarled trees clawed at the remnants of the walls. With a deep breath, I stepped over the threshold, the decaying wood groaning under my weight. The interior was a labyrinth of charred beams and crumbling masonry. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight filtering through the broken roof. The air was thick with the smell of rot and decay. With every step, a sense of foreboding grew within me. Following a barely discernible path amidst the debris, I stumbled upon a hidden chamber, most likely the one mentioned in Charles and Sarah's diaries. The room had somehow survived the fire, its stone walls blackened but mostly intact. In the center lay a weathered stone altar, identical to the one I had seen in my dream. And there, etched on the altar, was the same chilling symbol of the twisted spiral. It seemed to pulsate with a faint energy, a chilling reminder of the entity that had once resided here. A morbid curiosity propelled me forward. I ran my fingers across the symbol, a cold sensation shooting up my arm. Suddenly, the air shimmered, and a gust of wind swept through the chamber, extinguishing my flashlight. Panic surged through me as I was plunged into complete darkness. A sound like 1,000 tormented whispers filled the room, growing louder and more insistent. My heart hammered against my ribs, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Then, a voice. It wasn't a human voice, but a chilling rasp that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves. It spoke of darkness, of despair, of the hunger that gnawed at its core. It spoke of its yearning for release. Terror threatened to consume me. I wanted to scream, to run, but my body seemed frozen in place. The voice grew closer, wrapping around me like a suffocating shroud. Promise power, promise solace, at a terrible price. My mind raced. The stories in the diaries, the entity's malevolent nature, all of it flooded back to me. In that moment, I knew I had to fight back. With a surge of defiance, I ripped a page from one of the blank diaries in my pocket. On the back, I hastily scribbled the symbol of the twisted spiral, mirroring it perfectly. Holding the page aloft, I focused all my willpower on reversing the entity's energy. The whispers grew louder, filled with anger and frustration. The darkness writhed as if in pain. Then, with a deafening crack, the symbol on the page flared with a blinding light. The entity shrieked, a sound that seemed to tear through the fabric of reality itself. The chamber shook violently, debris raining down from the ceiling. When the dust settled, the air was eerily silent. The twisted symbol on the altar was gone, replaced by a faint scorch mark. Exhausted but strangely exhilarated, I stumbled out of the ruins. The sun was setting, painting the sky in a blaze of orange and purple. As I looked back at Blackwood Manor, a sense of finality washed over me. The entity I hoped was finally vanquished. But as I drove away, a gnawing unease settled in my stomach. The silence felt unnatural, devoid of the usual chorus of crickets and rustling leaves. Glancing at the rearview mirror, I felt a prickle of unease. The rearview mirror, once cluttered with the receding image of the manor, was empty. Blackwood Manor, or at least the ruins I saw, were nowhere to be seen. Was it a trick of the fading light, or had the entity, weakened but not destroyed, somehow erased its physical form? Back at my shop, the blank diaries lay on the desk, a stark reminder of the ordeal. The urge to leave them untouched, to bury this horrifying episode, was strong. But a stubborn curiosity, mixed with a sense of responsibility, propelled me forward. I decided to visit the local library, hoping to find more information about the twisted symbol and the entity it represented. Days turned into weeks as I scoured dusty tomes and obscure journals on forgotten lore. The symbol I discovered was not unique. It appeared in ancient texts, often associated with dark rituals and malevolent entities that fed on human emotions. The entity itself remained elusive, described as a formless being of pure malice, existing on the fringes of reality, preying on the vulnerable. One afternoon, while sorting through a box of recently donated books, a leather-bound journal caught my eye. Unlike the others, this one exuded an aura of age and power. The cover, adorned with the same twisted spiral, sent a shiver down my spine. Trembling, I opened it. The pages were filled with cryptic symbols and incantations written in a language I didn't recognize. But certain words stood out, like embers against darkness. Binding, trapping, vessel. Hope surged through me. This could be the key to truly vanquishing the entity. Deciphering the text was a painstaking process. I consulted experts in ancient languages, and with their help, pieced together a fragmented narrative. The journal detailed a ritual to permanently bind the entity to a vessel, a physical object that could contain its essence. It was a dangerous process, one with potentially disastrous consequences if performed incorrectly. The night I attempted the ritual, a thick darkness descended upon my shop. The blank diaries on the desk began to glow with an ominous light, the same symbol from the journal burning on their pages. As I chanted the incantations, the shop filled with a cacophony of whispers and screams. The air grew thick and oppressive, threatening to crush me. Suddenly, the shop door burst open. A gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing the lights and plunging me into darkness. A cold, shapeless form materialized before me, its whispers wrapping around me like a venomous snake. Panic threatened to consume me, but I fought it back. Focusing all my will, I completed the ritual, channeling the entity's energy into a small, obsidian amulet that hung around my neck, a gift from my late grandmother. A blinding light erupted, and a deafening scream filled the air. The entity writhed in agony, its form dissolving into wisps of dark smoke that were sucked into the amulet. The scream died down, leaving behind an eerie silence. When I finally dared to open my eyes, the room was empty. The darkness had lifted, and a sliver of moonlight peeked through the window. Exhausted but triumphant, I collapsed onto a chair. The blank diaries on the desk now bore a faint inscription, "Bound." But even now, months later, a shadow of doubt lingers. The whispers seem to echo at the edge of my hearing, and the nightmares of Blackwood Manor continue to plague my sleep. Did I truly banish the entity, or has it merely retreated, waiting for an opportunity to break free? The chilling truth is, I may never know. Yet, I stand guard, The amulet a constant reminder of the darkness I have faced and a promise to remain vigilant. For even the shadows hold secrets, and some nightmares refuse to be truly forgotten.